Welcome to episode 20 of our ComfyUI tutorial series. Today, I'm sharing my step-by-step process for turning simple sketches into polished illustrations using Flux or SDXL models. Watch as I transform a basic sketch into a fully detailed, finished image. We need a node for one of the workflows, so go to Manager, then Custom Nodes, and search for Canvas. We need the Canvas tab custom node made by this author. After it's installed, you can click Restart, but I will close it because I want to install some new updates. By the way, scroll down and always check the date. At the moment of this recording, that date is a few days back for me, so I will click Update All and then click Restart. I will use some ControlNet in this video, so make sure to check other episodes like episode 14 because I will not explain it again in each episode. Now, after the update, ComfyUI opened in a new window. If I go to Manager and check the date, it's a new date, so it installed a new version. Sometimes Manager fails to update, so you will need to do it manually from the Update folder and run the Update ComfyUI bat file. I will add some workflows on Discord so you can download them for free from there, one for SDXL and one for Flux. Let's start with the Flux one. Now, this is an all-in-one workflow. It looks complicated, but we have already covered most of it in previous episodes. There are 4 different workflows, and you can toggle them on or off using the switch next to each one. Make sure to keep only one active. You can use any of the switches since they are synchronized. See how when I use it, you can enable or disable a workflow. It's like a light switch that turns the light on or off. Look at the title of each workflow. The first one is Sketch Preparation, and it has the same name on the switch, making it easy to enable. The second workflow is Image Variation. The third one is Sketch to Image, and the fourth one is Draw Your Sketch to Image. So let's enable the first one, Sketch Preparation. This is useful for preparing your hand-drawn sketches so they are in the right ratio and luminosity to get better results when using the workflows. I'm loading this sketch of a bottle that I got from one of our Discord members named Uday. As you can see, the contrast and luminosity aren't great, so let's decide on a ratio that fits the image better. If I choose Classic Portrait and run it, I get this 2:3 ratio image. If I choose Balanced Portrait, you can see the crop is a little different. If I choose Square, it crops from the top and bottom, so that won't work in this case. There are some little details in the corner that I want to get rid of, so if I choose a 4:5 ratio, I can eliminate those and the image looks okay without that little detail in the corner. The aspect ratio looks good, and we can remember that ratio because we will need it in other workflows. Now, let's see how we can improve the quality a little. We have this node that lets us make some image adjustments. You have brightness, contrast, saturation, and so on. If I leave saturation at 1, it has that warm color tint from the photo, but I like to reduce it to 0, so it becomes basically black and white. Then I can increase the brightness, and it already looks better. You can keep adjusting the settings and click Q until you like the results. On the right, you can move the mouse and see the before and after. If we look closely, it's still a little blurry, so we can increase sharpness or enhance the edges. If we compare now, before and after, it looks much better. This workflow is also useful for those who don't use Photoshop or other apps and need to prepare sketches for social media. We can play with contrast as well. Just make sure the image isn't overcooked. Right now, the contrast is too strong, and we've started to lose some parts from the top. I think it looks okay now. A big improvement compared to the original. So that's the final image that is saved. I chose the Save node, but you can select the Preview node if you don't want all those variations saved in the Output folder. If you right-click now on the image, you can copy and paste it into other workflows. Just select the Load Image node and use Ctrl+V to paste it inside. Now, let's try a different example. I will upload this blue pen drawing of an orc. You decide on the ratio you want. In this case, the artistic frame ratio looks good, but the slim vertical ratio crops a little too much. I will go with Square for this one. Then moving to adjustments, the previous settings are too strong for this sketch, so I will make some adjustments. You could set the queue to change so it runs the workflow each time you make a change. I think this could work for the final version. So we have the final version. Now what? Right-click on the image and choose Copy Image. We can go to the next workflow, disable sketch preparation, and enable image variation. This is just an image-to-image workflow that you can use to make image variations. And in this case, we can create sketch variations. So select the Load Image node, then use the shortcut Control+V to paste it. Then you add a prompt for that sketch describing how it should look. For denoise, it depends on how similar or different you want the image to be compared to the original, so you can increase or decrease the denoise. Make sure the ratio matches your image ratio. In this case, square fits well. If I run the workflow, I get a different variation of that sketch. As you can see here, we can try again and we get a different sketch. It's quite cool that we can do that to explore ideas without needing to redraw everything. If I increase the denoise value, I give it even more freedom, and as you can see, the result is more different compared to the original. Let's say I am happy with the result. Now I can copy the image and move to the next workflow. I will disable image variation and enable sketch to image. Select the Load Image node and paste the sketch there, or you can just load it and select it from the output folder. I will add a prompt describing how the final illustration should look, including color, style, and other details that can help. Make sure the ratio matches the image. I use all these predefined ratios because Flux gets better results at certain image sizes, specifically multiples of 64. This is a Flux workflow that uses Flux ControlNet, so make sure you select the right model. If you get an error with MAT1 or MAT2, it means you didn't select the correct model. Also, this workflow is slower because it uses the Flux model and ControlNet. So you need a good video card. Then here, you can adjust the ControlNet strength and the N%, but I found these values work well for most things. One more step is the preprocessor. This will greatly influence the look. So I made a list of preprocessors you can try. You can start with Canny, for example, and run the workflow. And the result is this colored version of that sketch. Depending on the preprocessor, some will keep the lines like in this case, while others will just create an illustration without lines. Let's try with a different image, like this anime girl. I am adding a prompt where I describe how it should look, including the color of the hair, the teddy bear, and so on. As soon as I run it, the image goes through the preprocessor, which is Canny in our case, and it detects all those edges, giving us an image that the AI can understand. That goes through Apply ControlNet, which decides on the strength and when to apply it. In this case, after 30%, it stops that ControlNet, allowing more freedom to add colors and improve the illustration. Since this is a text-to-image workflow, the denoise is set to 1. The result is this nice illustration that is colored. The better the quality of your sketch, the better the final results will be. Look how cool it is colored. We got the shadings with lights and everything we need. I prompted for a white background, but you can even add environments in the prompt to make it exactly how you want it. Let's try a different preprocessor to see how it affects the image, like this line art preprocessor. You can just search for line and find a few options in the list. I will select the line art preprocessor and run the workflow, and the result is this. You can see it's different. It has fewer lines, so you get a different style. That's why it's important to try different preprocessors until you find a style that you like. You can observe how the lines look in the pre-processed image. Now, let's try a different one like this line art anime preprocessor. As soon as I run it, you can see how the pre-processed image has changed. If something is wrong with the image, you can cancel the running workflow, make changes, and try a different one, so you can test a few quite quickly. Let's say I want to use this manga to anime line art preprocessor. You see that when I run it, it didn't run so fast because I didn't have it downloaded. As you can see, it's downloading that model from Hugging Face, and some models can be quite large, so you need to wait for it to download. Also, if you get an error saying incomplete, make sure you have enabled long path in Windows so it can download the model. After a minute, it went through and produced this nice pre-processed image, and the final result is this. So try different seeds and different preprocessors. until you find something that works for you, and then you can use a fixed seed and play with prompts to improve the final image. Sometimes the sketch is too detailed or has too many lines that you don't want. In that case, you can use the depth anything preprocessor. When I run the workflow, I get this depth map, which gives a kind of 3D vision of the subject. You get results where the main shapes are there, but the tiny details can be different. This is a good preprocessor when you have a rough sketch. Let's switch back to Canny and try a different sketch, like this futuristic building sketch. This can be great for architects to come up with different renders from a sketch. To get some nice prompts, sometimes I just paste the image into ChatGPT and ask for a stable diffusion prompt for that image, describing the style and details I want to have. I got this long prompt that can work great with Flux. You can also ask it to remove quotes so it's easier to copy. Now, I will paste the prompt into the workflow and run it. The result is nice, but it kind of keeps all the lines in the sketch. I might want to have more freedom, so I could reduce the control net strength a little and see how it affects the generated image. It still has those lines, so I could reduce it more, but I can also try a different preprocessor that doesn't take into account all those tiny lines. Now, if I change to depth anything and run the workflow, we get that 3D look depth map of it that doesn't have all those lines, but retains the main form I want. The result is this 3D image. We can try running it again with a different seed, and I get a different image, but with the same forms and proportions. Let's try a different sketch, like this cartoon bunny. I will start with the Canny preprocessor, then I'll add a prompt to describe how I want the illustration to look. I will set the control net strength to 0.8. If you sometimes get blurry images, you can increase the number of steps to 30, but most of the time, you can get away with 20, which is faster. And this is the result. It kept the drawing lines and also added color along with a fantasy forest in the background. If I try a different preprocessor like the manga to anime, I get this cartoon bunny without the lines. As you can see, you can get pretty much anything you want just by adjusting the settings. Now, if you want a variation of this bunny, you could copy and paste it into the image variation workflow. Just make sure to disable the current workflow and enable the one you want to use. I can copy the prompt and try it, and I get a different version of it. It's a little blurry, so I might increase the steps to 30 and try again. You can also adjust the denoise values, so you can have a lot of fun playing around. Let's go back to the sketch to image workflow and load this simple house drawing. It can be a children's drawing or any sketch you want. I will add a prompt describing the colors and style I want. When I run it, I get this colored version of that sketch. If you decrease the strength of the control net, you give it even more freedom, allowing for a different variation. This can be used to create greeting card illustrations from different drawings. Now let's go to the last workflow, which we use when you don't have a sketch and just want to quickly sketch something to guide the AI. Make sure all other workflows are disabled except this one. Describe in a prompt what you want to create. In my case, a futuristic building. Instead of loading an image, we have this node called Edit in another tab. From the Canvas tab node we installed at the beginning, you just click on Edit, and a new interface will open in a new tab. By default, this opens with two windows, Image A and Image B, and you can move them if you click and draw from this tab. Do you see this green gradient dot? This is important. The image with that dot on will go to your workflow. So if I draw an S shape here and go to the ComfyUI tab, you can see it appeared there. If I draw something in Image B, I click on the green dot to enable it, and now that appears in ComfyUI. To delete an image, you click on that dot in the top left corner. To add an image, click on the New Image button and specify the size you want. You can zoom in and out using the mouse wheel. If I draw something and check in ComfyUI, you can see that it's not there because I didn't enable the image. So make sure that green dot is on, and now it appears here. You also have buttons for undo. If you draw something you don't like, I suggest using undo, but if you need to erase something, the eraser also deletes the background, so I will not use that. Instead, I will just paint with a bigger white brush the color of the background, and then you can switch back and draw again with the color you want. Let's create a new image and delete the old one. I will do some random lines just to see how the AI interprets them. Make sure you enable that image. Now, when I run the workflow, I get that image pre-processed, and I see a building that has incorporated those lines. If I try a different seed, I can get something else. I can also decrease the strength of ControlNet to give it even more freedom, so those lines are not as visible, and the result is quite nice. Let's go to Edit again, and this time let's draw a messy shape to see if it still gets something interesting from it. And I got this building. Obviously, the better the sketch, the better the result will be, but it can create something from any shape. Let's see if I try some depth anything preprocessor to see what it can interpret. It saw some forms, but it could be better if my sketch were improved. And the final image looks like this. For those who use Photoshop, you can do all the cropping to get the exact ratio you want using the crop tool. From here, you can change the ratio, and if it's in the wrong direction, you can switch it from this option. You can try different ratios until you find one that fits well, just like we did in the first workflow. You can also enter your custom numbers here, or make the crop smaller while keeping the same ratio. So you have a lot of options for cropping in Photoshop. You can also adjust the sketch. I like to add a black and white filter, then adjust brightness and contrast to make the sketch stand out even more. Maybe I'll add some levels to make the whites whiter and the blacks darker. You can keep adding more adjustments until you're happy with the result. For sketching, I prefer Photoshop instead of Canvas because it lets me use my Wacom tablet for drawing. Plus, I have access to more tools like symmetry, which can save me a lot of time, especially when creating mandalas, stars, or flowers. For example, here I can draw a quick snowflake. Then I will flatten the image and save it, or make a selection and copy the image directly and paste it into the sketch to image workflow. For the prompt, I might describe it as a macro photo of a snowflake, and for the preprocessor, I'll go with depth anything. The depth map looks interesting. The result is this beautiful snowflake. How cool is that? I love how easy it is to get final illustrations from a sketch. Now that we've seen how the Flux workflow works, I also made one for SDXL for those who need something faster. The workflow is the same, just adapted for SDXL. Make sure you load an SDXL model and an SDXL ControlNet, as it will not work with Flux. Let me know on Discord if you have any problems running it. In the next 2 minutes, just watch how I approach a project from start to finish. I even created a song about ComfyUI that you can listen to while you watch.
ComfyUI, here we go again. Knows the line, let the series begin.
Episode by episode, breaking it down. Each new setup, we're covering ground. Following pixaroma, guiding the flow. From basics to pro, watch that knowledge grow. Setting each weight, finding the groove, one note at a time. See the art improve. No need to code, just watch to see. ComfyUI, making it simple and free. ComfyUI, it's all mapped out. Wires connected, no room for doubt. From nodes to images, watch it unfold. Making AI art that's vivid and bold.
ComfyUI, here we go again. Knows the line, let the series begin.
Thank you, legends, for each episode view. For every sub, every member, and super thanks to building together with your support in mind. With each tutorial, we learn and climb. Shout out to Pixaroma leading the way. ComfyUI, new episodes each week. Here to stay!
For the final part, I created a GPT that allows me to get prompts for Kling AI based on the image I uploaded. Then I use image to video in Kling AI with the prompt generated by ChatGPT. The generation takes a few minutes, but with a few tries, you can achieve a nice animation. Here is the final video generated by Kling and adjusted in CapCut. As you can see, a big thank you goes out to all of you. Without your support, none of these episodes would be possible. That's all for today. Leave a like and a comment if you found this video useful, and I will see you on Discord. Have a great day.